cancer. As well as we're going to have one more speaker. She's just running a little late getting here. So I'm just going to lead a little bit with just a couple of risk factors for anybody that just wants a little bit more information about breast cancer. So some of the risk factors are gender, age, hereditary, never having children. So for older women, as myself, I'm going to call myself older because I'm almost near 40, and I don't have kids. That puts me at a higher risk for potentially having breast cancer, as well as from hormones, a history of breast or ovarian cancer, and then just early menopause. Over 70% of breast cancers are diagnosed in women with no identifiable risk factors. So even though I just list these risks, you could have none of these risks that could still trigger you to have breast cancer. A couple of warning signs that you may notice is a lump, a hard knot, thickening of your breast. For me, when I turned 31, I just happened to be sitting on the couch and just happened to be kind of rubbing my chest and ended up feeling that knot on my chest. And my mom, kept stressing out to get it checked out. So I ended up actually having my first mammogram done at the age of 31. Thank the Lord, there was nothing there. It was just a lump there. But it's important to just kind of know this brunch today is just knowing your body. Whether it's, loss of appetite or just something that's just out of ordinary of your body, check it out. It doesn't necessarily have to be breast cancer, but just anything out of the ordinary. Know your body. You should start doing self-breast examinations in your 20s and just continue that on into your 30s, especially as you do get up in age and go into your 40s, making that a regular routine part of your self-care ritual to do self-examinations. Let's see, swelling or redness or increased warmth in your breast, a change of size, itch, sore or swelling area. Just all these symptoms are warning signs. But like I said, you can have none of those signs at all and still have breast cancer. So just like I said, the takeaway would be to know your body. Also, recommended steps, like I just said, the breast self-exam, having your medical professional do a breast examination on you when you get your annual done. And then, like I said, if you have a history of breast cancer in your family, consider requesting that they do early detection for that. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to get a mammogram, but just so they can start monitoring it at an early age. If you're, either in your 30s or about to reach your 30s, I've heard of cases where women are in their 20s and get diagnosed with breast cancer. So there is no age limit to it. It just increases the older you get. But there are cases where you could be in your 20s and get breast cancer. So just making sure that your doctor is making that a part of your examination, annual examination. And then for ladies that are in their 40s, you start to get your annual mammograms. I know sometimes we kind of push off doing annuals. And so it's kind of just last minute to do, just ensuring that you can get your annual mammogram once you hit 40 and get that continuing the older you get. And then the second thing that I really wanted to kind of touch on that I just did was knowing your family history. So as many of you know, in the Black community, we don't like to discuss medical history. And so my grandmother's sister actually had breast cancer and had a mastectomy, which nobody never knew in the family until she was, of course, was having to take care of her. And, helping her take a bath, realized that, she had a mastectomy, but we don't even know when she had it, how that process went for her, just because she kept it to herself. So just getting it to a point of, trying to find out your family history and know, because you might actually have a higher risk of breast cancer, but you don't know because it's just something that's never discussed in the family. But, kind of triggering your aunts to kind of start discussing that issue, whether it's breast cancer or ovarian cancer or something like that. Like I said, I know from my family, we're kind of real secretive, and it's only, I come from a big family, so it's 11 of my mom's sisters. So one sister may know something, but the rest of them don't know it. And it's just stuff that gets kept in. So that would be my 2 points that I want to make. I hope that you take away from that is just knowing your body, as well as trying to figure out your family medical history to find out what things you may be acceptable to. So that's all I have. I'm going to turn it over to Shannon so she can speak for us. And she's been so gracious to talk. She was not on the program or anything to say anything, but she's going to share a little bit with us. Oh, and then real fast, before Shannon talks, I forgot to mention that we're raising funds for Sister Networking. So it's a a nonprofit based out of Houston. They have chapters all across the United States. Their nearest one to here is in Richmond. And their chapters are just to help survivors with going through the process, whether they're helping them and assisting them with, medical assistance while they're going through it, or just support after they've gone through the process. So that is the nonprofit organization that we're going to be giving to today a portion of the ticket sales, as well as I have 2 raffles over there, actually 3 raffles. So 2 raffles are just a goodie bag. They're only $1. It's just kind of really to kind of add to the pot of what we're going to be giving them as a donation. And then the other thing that I did not mention was TGIN, which if you look at your table, you got a swag bag, you got a sample product from them. So their founder actually is a breast cancer survivor. And so it's really an important cause for her to kind of bring awareness through using her products. So we actually have a goodie bag that's probably more than worth $100 worth of products in there that we'll be raffling off that they gave us as a giveaway to continue to raise more money. So if you would stop by the table in the back if you would like to buy a ticket, and we'll do a raffle towards the end of the month. Over to you.
All right, so my name is Shannon. I've been in healthcare for 20 years. I'm actually in radiology imaging. So I know about mammograms, I know about x-rays, I know about biopsies. Never thought that it would happen to me. The statistics is 1 in 8 women. So look at your neighbors, look at the table, 1 in 8 of us. So let's see, 3 years ago, 30 years, I felt a lot. I had a mammogram for about, I think it was like 36, 37, that was my baseline. And felt a lump, didn't think anything of it. I was like, it's probably just a little cyst or something. But called my doctors at the center that I work at and was like, hey, get me on the schedule. Just want you to check this out. I'm a single mom, so obviously, let me see what's going on. Probably it's nothing, but let's just make sure. Well, needless to say, I go in, I have my mammogram. They do some additional imaging. Then they do an ultrasound. I'm still thinking, okay, it's nothing. It's still probably a cyst. That's ordinary. So then the doctor, after she does the ultrasound, she looks at me and she says, Shannon, you have cancer. Now, typically, that doesn't happen in the normal setting. Because you would leave, you would come back, they would call you back for additional images, and then that's when they'll tell you. But again, I work there. This is my family. So she was like, okay, you got cancer. So they dropped everything that day for me. I had 2 biopsies. I set up all of my appointments because you have to go to a breast surgeon, everything. Long story short, I ended up having to have a mastectomy. I had 16 rounds of chemo. I had 3 surgeries. And here I am today. What I want to say is, one, as she was saying, know your body, but you have to be your own advocate. If you feel something, if you see something, if you oh, it's nothing, it's okay. If it's still bothering you, you go back to the doctor or you go to a different doctor. You have to be your own advocate. The second to that, like I said, I work in healthcare. So what a lot of people don't know in the African American community is, like she was also saying, it's kind of like, it's almost taboo. We don't talk about these things, but it's real. And being that I'm in healthcare, I see a lot of young women that's being diagnosed in their 20s, early 30s. I've even seen a 28-year-old come in, and it was her second time of being diagnosed. So it is true. It does happen to us. It has no race, no color, no ethnicity, no nothing. It can happen to any one of us. And being that I'm in the healthcare industry, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about it. So if you have family history, mother, grandmother, sisters, you can ask your doctor to have a screening mammogram if you've never had one. All they have to do is write family history on that written order, and then your mammogram is covered by your insurance. Now, if you are in your 30s and you've never had your mammogram and you have a family history, you may not need an order depending on what facility you go to. It's really facility driven and what their processes are. I personally work for Washington Radiology. We don't require an order. But if you're in your 20s, we do require an order because we want to make sure theoretically they're still sane, that you don't need a mammogram. So, but for insurance purposes, we have to code it accordingly. So we want to make sure that you have a family history, cool. family history, we're gonna do your mammogram and you're not gonna get charged. Insurance is not gonna charge you. So there's little ways around it. And a lot of places also have, like we have certificates that we give patients. So if you know someone that doesn't have insurance, and a lot of times it comes down to, do I pay my light bill or do I go get my mammogram? Okay, well, obviously pay your light bill, but you shouldn't have to worry about your health either because you're important. And you need to be around. Your kids want you around, your spouses want you to be around. So therefore, there are certificates out there, different organizations. Like we offer $99. You come in for $99, you have no money, no insurance, you can get your mammogram. And you don't even have to pay us the $99 that day. You can set up a payment plan, you can pay $10 a month, $20 a month, whatever you have. But places want you to come in and get your mammogram. People just don't tell you about it, and oftentimes we don't know. So my goal is now just to go out into the communities and to educate people more, people of color, the minority group, to let people know that yes, it does happen. I am a survivor. It happened to me. You will be okay. Early is key. That is the prevention of it all. And there are so many different organizations out here that can help you, and that there are people that will help you to navigate through the process. It's not easy, but there's a lot of organizations out here. I was going through chemo. I was able to get my house cleaned for free every week, however often I wanted. Just because there's different organizations that you just gotta tap into, but you won't know about these things until you start talking about these things. So that's my takeaway. Just talk about it. Don't be ashamed. It's life. Did anybody have any questions that you wanted to ask Shannon? Okay. Here's little cards. If you don't know how to do a self-breast examination, I just had them in my purse because I had an event yesterday at my job. So if you want to help yourself, feel free. I'm going to leave them right here. And if you know someone that doesn't have insurance, here's a $99 coupon that I was telling you about as well. Feel free to help yourself. And I'll stick those at the table if you guys want to grab some. Either for yourself or to share with somebody as you go back after this event. I just want to say thank you for everybody for coming out to Brunch and Rose. This is our second annual Brunch and Rose. Hopefully it continues to get bigger as the years go by. Hopefully 10 years from now we'll still be celebrating the 10th annual Brunch and Rose. We have a couple of different events coming up. If you look on the paper that was on your menu, we have our Trap Zumba, which is in Woodbridge. That'll be on 11/14, November 14th. It's a Wednesday in Woodbridge. You should be seeing our Eventbrite pretty soon. Ticket links to buy your tickets for that event. As well as we have Brunching While Bougie, which will be in DC. So we're going to DC, even though our group is based out in the suburbs, Northern Virginia. We're going to DC just for a little bit of fun. Po' Boy Gym on 8th Street. What else do I have on that paper? Canva and cocktails. So if you're a business owner, you want to learn how to do Canva and do neat graphics and stuff that you see, then we'll be having a Canva and cocktail class to teach that. As well as we just have a bunch of different events that we are planning for December as into the year. Did I say something else on there? Oh yeah, the bag lunch. We're doing a community service event next Sunday. That one is really important because it's next Sunday, and we need donations for that. So if you want to come out, be a part of our community service event, we're doing 60 bags for the homeless, 120 sandwiches total. I have a site of Genius, so if you follow us on Instagram, then you can just click the link on there to see what needs to be donated for that. If you can't stay for the event, you can donate. If you're not able to make it and you're interested in donating, you can donate whatever you want to donate to the cause for that. So that's next Sunday. And it'll probably be in Herndon, the actual bagging of it. But if you want to donate something to that, then you just reach out to me and we can arrange to pick up the drop off on that stuff. I think any questions? Girlfriends in the Burbs, like I said, is a membership organization. It's based out in Northern Virginia. We host all types of events like this that are open to the public, but as well as we have our own personal events that are just for the members only. And I just want to say thank you to our members for actually coming out at the first table.
So yeah, so we do all kind of cool events. So we do game nights, just personal stuff that are in there. They're just for our members only. We did our derby event, VA Gold Cup in May. We'll be doing that again next year. Just a different thing. So if you have any questions about Girlfriends in the Burbs, I feel like I'm babbling at this point. But come on up. Tashani, come on. I'm gonna probably still pronouncing your name wrong, but come on down.
Hi, Ebony.
Yes.
Hi, Ebony.
Go that far. Do you need a minute? Okay. I'm gonna let you go ahead and first of all.
It's Tasha. But that's a sales stage name like Michelle.
Got you.
Family calls me Tasha.
Okay, Tasha.
Y'all please welcome Tasha. Thank you so much, Ms. Shearer, for the invitation. And Kirsten, my friend Kirsten. Hey, Kirsten, thank you all for the invitation. I'm glad to be here today. I apologize. I was flying from Leesburg, Virginia, and the GPS was not being my friend. So they had me all the way down Nutley Street for some strange reason, so my apologies. Thank you again for the invitation. I don't know who I'm speaking to this afternoon. Do we have survivors in the room today? We have one survivor. Okay, we have supporters of survivors and fighters here though. Okay, awesome. One survivor? Where did I see that? How many years? 3 years? Nice to meet you, survivor. My name is Tasha. Again, friends and family call me Tasha. And again, I'm very honored to be here today, and I really appreciate the invitation. I will say that November 23rd, I'll be 7 years cancer-free. And it's funny because oftentimes when I think about the journey that I've been on for the last 7 years as far as cancer and the follow-up and the things of that nature, I never looked at myself as a survivor. I never looked at myself as a fighter. I was just kind of doing what I felt like we've always been wired to do, right? We've all had some type of struggle of some sort, over the years, and it may not have been cancer or any kind of physical ailment, but as women, as wives, as mothers, as sisters, as daughters, we've just been wired to overcome, right? Anybody identify with that? So I never looked at myself as anything that required a title or a definition other than I was just doing what I know to do. And that was just to pick up the pieces and keep it moving, right? As I mentioned, it was seven years cancer-free. It was actually July 14th, 2011, which happened to be my 37th birthday, that I found out that they saw something, right? There had been a series of things that had taken place over 6 months, unrelated health issues, and there was no history of breast cancer or any kind of cancer in my family. So the last thing I saw coming was breast cancer. Now, if the doctor had told me that you have diabetes, that made sense, right? Because my mother had it. The doctor had said it's heart disease. That made sense to me because my father had it, right? There were other things that I could have rationalized my way through. I didn't see this one coming, right? So there were a couple of different things going on health-related, unrelated, but over 6 months, I developed them quickly, and I happened to go for a visit with my OBGYN, and I'm telling him all these different things that have happened in 6 months, and he says, why don't you go get a mammogram? And I'm like, why? I do self-examinations. I'm not due for a mammogram for 3 more years. He was like, go get one anyway. This man, African-American doctor from Harvard, who's absolutely brilliant, but he's quirky. He was my OBGYN with both my kids, and everyone hated him, right? But through 2 complicated pregnancies, he got both of them here safely. They weren't born early without issues. So I trusted this man. And again, for him to kind of, start thumbing through his encyclopedias, he's like, go get a mammogram. I'm like, that's random, but okay. On my 37th birthday, I went for a mammogram and sat in that uncomfortable room in that uncomfortable gown that does not fit. And I'm trying to figure out what size woman fits into this gown? But that's a whole other conversation. And to sit there and they keep coming back, we need to look again. And then go back, we need to look again. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've been checking for months. What are you talking about? And they kept saying, we see something, but we don't know what it is. We need to do a biopsy. Okay, but there's no family history. Where is this coming from? So they find a spot, they find something they can't identify, and they were like, after the biopsy, we don't know what it is, we need to get it out. Okay, September 19th, on my husband's birthday, I have surgery. And on October 1st, I find out that it was malignant cancer, and it was aggressive. And it was good that I listened to the doctor and went, because had I waited till my 40th birthday, I wouldn't be here. And I remember, and if you don't mind, I can only talk about this experience from my perspective. I'm a woman of faith, and I've been living, if that's all right. I've been singing and leading praise and worship for years, right? And I sang songs about God being a healer, and it was always words on a page, right? Because even though I had been through some experiences up to that point, I'd experienced some hurt and some trauma. There are parts of me that kind of rationalize my way through it, even in the midst of speaking and singing and talking faith, right? You know, time heals all wounds. So I recovered from that heartache because time went on. And so God healed me, but I recovered from it because, I just got over it after time went on. But when you get a diagnosis of the C word, right, where this is now something physically in front of your face, that all the money in your bank account, all of the friends and the support you have around you, there is nothing that can help me in that moment when they're saying you have something that can kill you and can kill you fast. And I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old at home, and I have a husband who at the moment he heard biopsy was literally frozen in place with fear about what's about to happen, because we've never dealt with this before. So what I had been singing about for years just got real to me on a whole nother level, where I now had to reach for something beyond what I could rationalize. Is I'm saying I had to have a conversation with myself and say, you know what? How can you really say that he's a healer if I don't believe that he's able to do this, right? And so I remember the night before, the Friday before I got the results, and the 2 weeks after the surgery, the long waiting, trying to find out what it was, what it wasn't. I remember I had a dream, and it was clear. It was literally a voice whispered in my ear while I was asleep. And it was God, and he said, it's cancer, but you're not gonna die. And I said, okay. So on Monday, when I went to the doctor's office, and she comes in, and she's like, we have your test results, we need you to come in. And she sits down and she grabs my hand and she pulls in real close, and she was like, I hate to break it to you, but you have cancer. It's malignant. And we gotta do chemo, and we gotta do radiation. We gotta make sure that this doesn't come back. And tears welled up in her eyes because she knew it was pretty serious. And I grabbed her hand and I said, Doc, it's okay. What we gotta do? And she looked at me and she was like, Miss Carper, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. Are you okay? And she was like, do you have any questions? I said, Doc, you're my girl. I'm ready to fight. So I'm not dying no time soon. So you need to tell me what to do, right? And from that point forward, that had to be my mindset. That had to be my posture, that I refused to accept any other outcome other than I was going to live, because God had already told me, you're going to live and you're not going to die from this. And what I didn't understand, and what oftentimes we don't understand, is when things happen to us, we often feel like it's about us. It's an indictment about us. But what I soon realized through this whole process of, surgery, radiation, targeted chemotherapy that I couldn't even tolerate, what I learned is that it was never about me. It was about that doctor needing to see something that maybe she wasn't used to seeing. She was giving me all these pamphlets and overwhelming me with all of the doctors speaking. I respect her in a rightful place, but she's a practicing physician. I know somebody who's a real physician. And I believe in someone who is the physician. So all of the, well, this might happen and you might feel this way and you might feel that way. I remember hearing it all and I would say, okay. You're going to have this side effect and you're going to lose your hair right here. And I remember saying, okay. And I remember hearing everything she's saying. But what I learned in that was a couple of things. I learned that we don't have to take on the mindset of anything that goes against what God's word says about it. His word says that I desire that you will prosper even as your soul prospers. And he said that I've come that you will have life and have it abundantly. And if he already said you're not going to die from this, then I don't really have to own anything else other than that. There's a process I had to go through, but that process wasn't even for me. Because one thing I've learned about the C word is you don't know how strong you are until you have to be. You don't know what you're really capable of until you have to be. And oftentimes we become so overwhelmed by the circumstance and we don't feel strong and we don't feel like we're making it. We feel like we're going to lose it and break at every moment. But the beautiful thing is when you take the time to stop and look at the mirror, you realize I feel like I'm breaking, but I'm actually not broken. I feel like I'm not going to make it, but I'm still making it. I'm still so far from where I think I should be. But if I just stop for a second and look behind me and realize how far I've come, I realize that even when I thought I was going to quit, I didn't. Even when I thought I was going to break and crack and fold, I didn't. And I recognized that someone had to see me walk through that season with my head up to know that they had hope. So it wasn't even about me. And I can look back on that whole experience and say that if someone else who maybe didn't believe what I believe or who didn't have the strength to fight the way that I fought, if they feel like they could go another day because they saw me go through it, then I will go through it all over again. Because it was never about me. Sometimes someone needs to watch you go through it and come out of it so that they can hold on. Sometimes they need a tangible, visible example of your fight and your press and your push to know that they can make it. Now, I didn't know 7 years ago, no family history of anyone in my family that had breast cancer. But since then, 2 months ago, my mother got diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. My cousin got diagnosed last year with breast cancer. A very good friend of mine got diagnosed 6 months ago and is going through the fight of her life with metastatic breast cancer. And I lost a dear friend 4 weeks ago from a 13-year fight with breast cancer. So again, I recognize that why he had to let me go through it 7 years ago is because there were going to be people around me now that were going to need to see and that were going to need to know. Because one of my good friends who's going through her fight now, she said to me, she said, Natasha, I'm not scared because I watched you go through this 7 years ago with young babies and a young husband. And I watched you get up every day and do what you do. You never stopped. You sung praise and worship. You continue to be a wife and a mom. I continue to look cute the whole way through. I continue to catwalk everywhere I went. And even in that, sitting in the chemo center with women who have lost their hair and everything, most of them would say, including the people that work there, you look so beautiful. And I said, you know what? I can't let myself look sick, because the minute I start to look sick, I'm going to feel sick. And it literally had to become mind over matter. I still got my girlfriends and my homies that are mad at me to this day because I told them that I had cancer via email. I did. I know y'all like, did you email them? Really? I emailed him. You know why? Because if I understood, again, when you're a friend and you're a sister, you may tap into your emotions before you tap into your faith. And where I needed to be in that moment, I needed to walk by faith, and I could not walk by what I saw. Because what I saw scared me to death. So I had to walk by what I knew, which was bigger than what I saw. And this helped me not only for me, but it helped me to support others and support my sisters that are going through it. You don't want to be in a place where you have to manage other people's emotions about your fight. Mm-hmm. Because those are my kids that are affected. That's my husband. That was my family that was impacted in my household for the time that I was going through treatment every day. Treatment was every day, 5 days a week for 19 weeks. You know, my 3-year-old couldn't understand why I couldn't pick her up. You know, there were days where I literally couldn't get up off the couch after treatment. I was so exhausted, and we had to have some wonderful women from the church that would bring food over every day. And so I didn't have time or the capacity to manage other people's emotions about that, include my own mama. And if you bring this topic up, she will go off right now, because I even had to keep my mother at bay, because my mom, she's mama, and I couldn't deal with her crying in the phone. Oh no, what's going to happen to my baby? Because I understood we weren't walking in the same place of faith. So I was like, Mom, we really couldn't talk about it. And she knew, like, either you were going to speak life and you were going to encourage me, but if it was all the emotion, I can't handle that right now, because I've got 2 little girls that don't understand what's going on, and I've got a husband who is scared straight, and he's terrified, he's petrified, and rightly so. So you know what, there's a certain posture I got to maintain just to keep the normalcy here at home. I can't manage all of the external emotions about what's going on. We talked about it when it was over, but not when I was going through it. And I learned that even as now a supporter and an advocate of family members, I can't transfer my emotions about it to them. If I gotta cry, I'm gonna go cry in the corner. But when I get on the phone with them, I gotta talk. I gotta be the trainer on the other side of the ring now. You know, when they come back to the corner, I gotta be the one putting the metal plate to get the swelling out of their eye and putting some Vaseline on their face and saying, okay, tighten up your gloves. You gotta watch that left hook and push them back into the fight, right? I'll go and get upset when they're not looking. But I can't do that to them right now, because she don't need that. My mother doesn't need that right now. But I also know, even with my mother, she's coming back and saying, well, when you went through that, when you did this, how were you able to manage that? So again, I recognized I had to go through it, because they were going to need me now. And so I don't know if I'm over time, or if I'm not. You said I got a few more minutes? Okay. So I just want to encourage you, for those that are supporters and advocates, you know, be there for them, and be there for them the way they need you to be there for them. Because oftentimes we think we know from the outside, and sometimes that may contradict with what we think is best, but really be there for them the way they need you to be there for them, and be strong. The one thing that I remember, even going through that whole process, is that I had no fear. And that's not me exaggerating, because I told you, if it's not in God's plan, we don't have to own that mindset. And he says, I didn't give you fear, but I gave you power. I gave you love, and I gave you a sound mind. And I was able to keep a sound mind through that process. And now, 2 months ago, I was released into the wild. I no longer have to see any oncologists anymore, because I'm in the clear from recurrence, and that they told me that I am no longer at risk of breast cancer. My risk is no higher than anyone who never had it.
Wow.
And, you know, it was bittersweet, because I was at the same time my mother was getting the diagnosis. But it's okay, because I know that she's going to be all right too, because I've seen him do it before. And I've recognized that, again, even for my friend who just passed a couple of weeks ago, she had been in that fight for 13 years. And the beautiful thing about it was that for 13 years, nobody knew she was sick other than the people she told, because she was always encouraging me. She was always encouraging other people. She remained positive in the end, and God was pleased with her service. So after 13 years of fighting, she had done what she needed to do. And the impact of the lives that she impacted by her courage was incredible. So I leave you with this. Again, your struggle may not be cancer, or whatever the cross is that you bear, it may not be that. But go through it with courage, go through it with power, go through it with a sound mind, because someone else is not in the rope to hold on another day. Is coming from them watching you. They may never say anything to you about it. They may never approach you, but they're watching from afar, and they're admiring, and they're going home, and it's resonating with them at night that, you know what, she pushed, she never complained, she pushed, she kept doing her thing. I know I can do this. So I stand here with my Pink Ladies t-shirt on. This is a foundation I started under my LLC, and this is for, again, how to keep it cute and keep it classy when you're in the fight of your life. So, you know, dealing with your self-esteem again, how you look, because when they're going through mastectomies and they're losing their hair and all of these things, again, how do I not feel what I see, and what are some ways that I can overcome that? You know, and it was so important, and it made a difference to me, even though my hair was thinning. It didn't fall all the way out, but it was thinning. Like I said, I just rocked my pixie a little bit shorter with some lines on the side, and made sure I kept the makeup. The face was beat every day, because that is what empowered me, that what was taking place, I was already looking at a healed being, and that was important. So I just want to encourage you, love hard, be there for those that you support, for the survivor, be strong, fight on. Thank you so much for this opportunity. God bless you.
That was a good speech that you gave. I'm sorry. I feel like you took me to church for a minute. I didn't go to church today, so I thank you for that. That pretty much concludes Brunch and Rosé. We still have another hour, so in terms of the presentation part, that concludes it. But before I get off the mic, I just want to give a quick shout out to our vendors. And if you haven't already visited their tables, please do. I want to definitely give a shout out to Ty, who is a member of Girlfriends in the Burbs. This is her first showcase of her products. So if you have not had a chance to check out her table, please do check out her table and support her. She has custom t-shirts, as well as she also does home decor. Okay, so visit her table to get information on how you can continue to get more items from her, or if you're interested in getting to see something here today for that you wanted, but maybe potentially want her to make for you, because she can do custom t-shirts. I also want to give a shout out to Curly Kinky Cool. Can you two ladies come up here, please? I really want to shout them out because they're young entrepreneurs. And so they are 10 and 13, I'm sorry, 10 and 13, how many older? What's your name?
Kaya. Armani.
And you're both sisters, right? Okay, so please stop by their table, support them, because it's amazing to have two young entrepreneurs out there doing their thing. So they reached out to me, actually like Friday, I think. So real short notice, they just happened to the event. They have a couple of breast cancer awareness items. So support them, please. Follow them on Instagram. What's your Instagram? Okay. And show them some love, please. Thank you, ladies. Oh, I'm sorry, Tanisha. What's your Instagram? Ty Murphy Designs at Instagram. So please follow Ty as well. Paparazzi Jennifer. Please check out Jennifer. I love paparazzi and Jennifer when she does it. They make $5 jewelry. Everything at the table is $5. So you can get your whole wardrobe on. And as Tasha said, still look pretty throughout whatever you're going through with the jewelry for $5. Do you have an Instagram or Facebook?
I have Facebook. $5 bling, not daily.
Okay. And then Lizzie. Essentials, right? Yeah. What's your Instagram? Lizzie Lee Essentials. Lizzie Lee Essentials. So please follow her. She has all the essentials. So if you are into self-care, she has your bath salts, your lotions, I think body oils, anything else? Yeah, all good things for self-care. So as you go through whatever it is, self-care is always important. I know that's the coin term of this year. People probably are sick of hearing about self-care, but she has all the perfect items for self-care. And then, like I said, I have three raffles. If you want to see me at the table, if you're interested in entering that raffle, for the 2 goodie bags are just full of different things. That's $1. And then if you want to do the TGIN, that is going to be $25 for that particular raffle. Also follow TGIN if you're not following them as well, because they were gracious enough to give us all those swag bag items. Hashtag them. As you saw in the menu, there's 2 hashtags. So please, 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 when you take pictures, hashtag it. If you already have posted your pictures and did the hashtag, hit that edit button on Instagram and add the hashtag for the event, please. It's GITB Nova, as well as Brunch and Rose 18. And I think that's the line on there. Yeah, so just those 2. Yeah, and then just Brunch and Rose if you don't have the 18 on there. But that's all I have, as well as if you ever need any photography needs, please check out Paige, our photographer. He is our residential photographer. He's been with us for almost a year at this point now. So if you ever need any photo needs, please hit out Paige, CCP Photos.
CCP_photos on Instagram.
There we go. And if you're not following Girlfriends in the Burbs and you just randomly heard about this event, it is Girlfriends in the Burbs, Instagram, Girlfriends in the Burbs, Nova, Facebook. Please follow us to find out about future events that we have, or if you're just interested in joining. And like I said, you are free to, I don't think there's any more food over there. But you have mimosas. We're here, like I said, for another hour. Continue to socialize, connect. Our mission is to build lasting friendships through our events, through our social events, through our community service, as well as our Cosmoland City networking event. So this brunch that we have is the way for you to connect with different women. As you know, it's very hard to find African-American women to connect with in Northern Virginia. And that's where we try to build a platform through our membership, as well as just hosting events like this where you may sit next to somebody and meet and have an instant connection with them, whether it's business or personal. But that's the purpose of this event and all the events that we have, is to bring people together. So I'm gonna stop talking so y'all can network, connect, and thank you again for coming out. And I'm sorry we don't have any music. I was supposed to be doing my thing, but it didn't happen. So
Thanks for watching. Bye.